Hello everyone, welcome to the lovely valley of Brodalen Bridges and welcome to our third Vigor map tutorial video. And we are going to jump straight into this. Brodalen is a large map. It's got a lobby of 10 to 12 players, and in my opinion this is one of the most new player friendly maps there is in the game. Why do I think this is a great map for new players? Well, keep watching till the end of the video and you'll understand why. First up, as always, is our overview of the points of interest on this map. As you can see, all the points of interest spawn mid to north of the map. This has a bit of a similar design to Fisk, where the best areas are actually concentrated into one part of the map. Unlike Fisk, this is not an aggressive map, meaning that as a new player you don't per se have to go to this area to get loot. Just a couple of things I want to point out. Container, you can see at the suspension bridge that there is a container on top of the bridge, but the container also has a chance to spawn underneath the bridge. It's a bit hard to tell the difference if you're new, but after a couple of games you will learn when it's on top of the bridge and when it's below the bridge. Time save spawns on one of the two bridges as well. If it's on the train bridge, I would not bother going for it. It is incredibly difficult to hit both switches in time and you are very exposed on that bridge. Just like the tunnel on Fisk, you're kind of bottlenecked. You have to go either north or south to exit it. I do not recommend going for timed if it's on the train bridge. If it's on the car bridge, you can give it a go, but also be very careful because it's usually underneath the bridge. And those walkways are also very bottlenecked and you are very exposed from all sides. Moving on to the loot distribution on this map. As you can see, the loot is very spread out on this map. Pretty much everything that's a building will have loot in it. And that's why this map is better than Fisk. Even though the points of interest are concentrated in one area, the loot is not. You will find a big variation of resources on this map, going from wired and metal to fuel and electronics, even chemicals and glass. You will be able to find everything here in decent amounts. Meaning that if you go around the map, you will exit with decent stacks of everything. The blue area that I marked is very good to find fertilizer and food because it's a plantation area. This map in general is also very good to find food. You will find crates along the roads, near buildings, between plantations, and those crates can have anywhere from 15 to 35 food in them. So this is a good map for new players who have not maxed out their shelter yet and who are struggling to get that 10,000 food per week. This is a really good map for collecting all that food that you need, together with collecting all the resources that you need. You will find fuel at the gas station. You will find fertilizer in the barns and in the plantations. Chemicals you will find at Haldor Motel mostly and at the campsite. The restaurant at the west side is where you will find consumables. You will find a couple of heals there usually. Abandoned cabin all the way up north is a special one. It's the only location on this map, or any map I think, where you will find a lot of weapons. And when I mean a lot of weapons, I mean you will actually have to pick between 5 or 6 guns that spawn in a single crate with ammo. So if you're a new player, you're struggling a bit to get some weapons, and you spawn up north, head to that location and you should be able to find at least 2 guns that you like. Interesting fact, if the lobby gets boosted, let's say to 500%, those weapons also get boosted. So that means that those weapons become blue, purple, sometimes even gold quality. So in a boosted lobby, I would definitely go check that place out. Hagen's Farm, not really that good for loot. It's very spread out, and you will also see on the Hotzones later on that this area gets crowded very quickly because a lot of people spawn close by. And I don't think it's worth going there to find loot. There's usually a lot better places. And here we have a small overview of the spawning locations on the map. Again, these are not all the spawning spots. I'm sure I missed a couple, but this will give you a general idea of where you will spawn, how close somebody else will be. As you can see, you just spawn on the outer edges of the map, as is with a lot of maps. This map has only one special mechanic in the spawning, in my personal opinion. Maybe others will disagree, but this is something that I have noticed, is that the spawning is always a bit uneven. There will always be a higher concentration on one end of the map than there will be on the other side of the map. You can check this yourself by being the first at signals very early in the game, but you can always notice that there will be 5 or even 6 people in the north part of the map, so north of the river, and the rest is spread out down south. Other times it will be the other way around, and you will hit signals and you will see that there's only 3 people in the north and everybody else is concentrated all the way in the south near Megan's Grove, Southern Plantation and the old train bridge. I'm not entirely sure what the developers had in mind by setting this up. Maybe it was by accident, maybe it's by design, I'm not 100% sure. But what it means is that if you spawn north, is that you will have to fight a bit for control over the map area. Because you spawn in one of the most interesting parts of the map. All the points of interest are there. If you spawn south, then you can choose to either stay south, grab some loot, and safely exit. Or you can just head north and fight over those points of interest. Being aware that the people who are already north will be defending that area and most likely are already close to a point of interest or even opened it already. This is a big map, so do not underestimate the time it takes to get from south side all the way to the river. If the points of interest spawn on the south side of the river, then it's a bit of a race. The people who spawn on the north part of the map, they have to get across there, and it's a narrow part of the map. You can see on the screen that it's much more narrow than it is south. And if there's a high concentration of players, then they will see each other, they will hear each other, and they will get into conflicts already very early before they reach their points of interest. If you spawn south, then you also have a good chance of getting to those points of interest before the people up north do. But be aware that as you are going north, that the map gets narrower for you as well. So everybody who spawns south is being bottlenecked a little bit towards the points of interest. And you just have to look at the river on the west side to see how much narrower it gets. So by the time you reach the points of interest, you will also be getting into conflicts with players from south, but also from players who spawn north. But like I said, this is one of the best maps for new players to play on, because it's a map that doesn't force you to those areas. But you have to be aware that the closer you get to the points of interest, the more dangerous it will be for you as a player who wants to avoid conflicts. This is also a great map for new players because there are a lot of options to exit. None of them are closed, and we will talk about the exits in the later part of the video. Just know there's a lot of altitude differences, which means that you're not always running on the same level. Some players will be higher than you, some players will be lower than you, and that gives a lot less line of sights on this map. That's not to say that you can run freely all over this map. There are places where you are very visible, but there's also a lot of places you can just go through the trees and players will maybe hear you, but they won't see you. Next part of the video is about signals. Signals has 5 spawning locations on this map. 3, maybe 4 are concentrated on that mid to north area, while one of them spawns all the way down south. If signal spawns near the gas station, then that is a great place for you to get control of the whole northern area. If you can pull the airdrop up north, that's really fantastic, because then you have absolute control over the whole area. If it spawns near the success or the campsite, then it's a bit less of a control area, because the river will split your territory in half a bit. But it's still 2 good locations for you to get control signals, check who is at points of interest, check how safe the exits are. If it spawns near the old train bridge, then it's more of a boost for the players who spawn south, that they can rush signals before they head into the playing field in the middle of the map. And if it spawns south, then it's a bit neutral to the playing field and the whole map actually. Most of the time, if it spawns south, it's going to be used by exit campers who camp the signals and then will try to cover the 3 closest exits in an attempt to cut you off. Next up are the hot zones of the map. I'm not going to talk too much about these because they are pretty obvious. In the north area, it's Hagen's farm and the gas station, mostly because points of interest will be at those locations and there's not much else to go to in that area. South side you have Megan's Grove, Southern Plantation. Again, this is because players spawn very close to that and it's the first places that they can go to. Restaurant area is usually also one because at least 2 players will spawn very close to it. Other spots on this map were marked in yellow. Solberg Ranch, Haldor Motel, Sing Sas. All 3 of these areas are also very prone to be hot zones, conflict areas, early game. Haldor Motel, Solberg Ranch, usually players who'd like to get away from the original hot zones and rush to the center of the map. Most of the time it's very quiet, but sometimes these yellow areas can get very hot. Okay, now we are at the last part of the video, as always, are the exits. As you know, exits are very important in this game and I like to spend a little bit of time on this part, explaining the different exits, what the pros, what the cons are. So let's get started. Up north we have 3 exits. I marked them with a yellow arrow. Not because they are bad, but the exits up north get camped a lot because they are usually the closest exits to the points of interest. And some people just prefer to sit at the exit and wait until an innocent raincoat comes along who just looted the container. They just blast them away and take the container loot without putting in the effort. So always be careful if you go to these exits. The upside of this map is that exits are not that far apart. So if you're in the north area, one of these exits has an exit camper, just go to another exit. All 3 of these exits are close by and you should be able to reach another one if you started your exit run in time. South side of the map, mark them all with a green arrow because I think these are very safe exits. The one at the Southern Plantation gets scammed sometimes because these areas have a lot of potential for people to hide in front of the exit instead of actually on the exit. As you can see, the place where I spawned, where my little triangle is, that's actually a location you could find an exit camper because they hide between the trees and they cut you off way before you reach your exit instead of just sitting at the exit and alerting the crows. All by all, this map is very friendly to exit because they are all very close by. Like I said already, you can switch to another exit very quickly if there's an exit camper on one. Most of the exits allow you to take 1 or 2 paths into the exit. The ones that spawn at the river, you can actually exit either side of the river. The one all the way down south, you can exit on the road, but you can also go next to the road and run into the exit like that. Radiation on this map is something you need to be aware of. It's a big map and if you start your exit run too late when radiation is already hitting you, you may not reach your exit in time. So just make sure that by the end of the game you are near an exit and that you can also head to another exit in case it's camped. There is not much else to say about the exits on this map. Like I said at the start of this video, this is a very exit friendly map for new players. And with that we have come to the end of the video. It's a bit of a shorter video even though it's a pretty big map, but there's just not a lot of special things about Brodalen. It's a very basic map, very standard map, and that's why it's a good map for newbies to play on. Hope you guys enjoyed it, hope you learned something new. If you're looking forward to the next video, don't forget to subscribe. If you have a request for the next map, feel free to leave a comment. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye!